Hello everyone, welcome to Prakash IT. Today we are going to start our first part of the Spring Framework. So here we are going to discuss Spring Framework, a whole complete Spring Framework one after another. So I have divided the course into multiple parts, part by part. I mean part one, part two, and so on. We'll go over part by part. So in this framework discussion, what we will do, we will discuss Spring Framework um, in depth. I mean, I will discuss the concept. Then I will implement the same concept in the Eclipse IDE with an example. So the things for the first time who are going to learn the Spring Framework, for them it will be easier. Okay. So if you have any issue or anything you have not understood, let's ping me in the comment section so that I can clarify each and everyone's doubts. Okay. So if you like, let me in the comment section that I can take it forward. I can make a separate video to clarify the doubts which you have. So today I'm going to discuss uh, about the Spring Framework, the basic terminology which is important actually, which is very much important to start the Spring Framework. Okay, that I'm going to discuss in today's video. Okay, then so today what I'm going to cover, let's just look into that. First where I'm going to discuss what is a Spring Framework, and second one is how many types of container are there in Spring Framework, and what is IOC container and how does it works. Then we'll go into the bean factory container and application context container, and the hierarchy between them. I will discuss in detail about the Spring container and how it is going to work, and the hierarchy between them, and at the end of this video I am going to discuss about what is the difference between the bean factory and application context container. Okay, so let me tell about the overview of the Spring Framework. Spring Framework is a it's a lightweight and open source application framework that provides infrastructure support for developing Java application. So by using Spring Framework, what we can do, we can develop Spring web applications, like web applications in I mean we can develop Java application by using the Spring Framework with mm, uh, rapid application development we can achieve by using the Spring Framework. So by using Java EE, that is Java Enterprise Edition, what we are doing, we are developing our standalone application as well as the web applications. Okay, so let me tell about what is a standalone application. Standalone application is something which can run on a computer independently without the help of any other software. Okay, for example, uh, uh, I can say whatever the notepad we are using, whatever the calculator we are using, or Chrome that we are using, that is comes under standalone application. That also we can develop by using the Spring Framework as well as web application. Web application. Let me tell about what is a web application is all about. So web application is something, so which the application which hosted, which is deployed over a server, and we can communicate to that application by using a client, that is a interface, that is a browser. The browser what is that is there in our computer, and through the internet we can connect to the our web application and we can communicate with the web application. Now two things clear: what is a standalone application and what is a web application. And as part of web application, I can say in our daily life we are using Flipkart, Facebook, Gmail, Yahoo. All these are comes under web applications. Okay, so so as of Spring Framework, we can develop standalone application. We can develop web application as well. Uh, so in Spring Framework, there are several modules we have. I can say Spring Core, that is Spring IOC, Spring AOP, Spring DAO, Spring Context, Spring ORM, Spring Web MVC, Spring Security, Spring Data. All are variety of, like, not one, many modules are there. Many modules are there. We are going to discuss as part of Spring Framework full course. We are going to discuss about all these part by part with the solid concrete example. And as part of this Spring Framework, I'm also going to discuss the design patterns that is used as part of Spring Framework also. For example, I will discuss strategy design pattern. I will discuss factory design pattern. I will discuss many others design pattern, singleton design pattern. All these design patterns which will needed going forward, I will discuss each and every one with detailed example, and I will write the examples. I mean I will develop the application by using my Eclipse ID, and I will show you how we can develop Spring application by using the Eclipse ID also. And as part of the course, I will also going to going to show the debugging technique that is very much important as part of IT industry. If you have the debugging skill, then only you can debug. If you have face any problem in your in IT industry, then the one and only thing is there. By debugging the application, you will get to know what is the issue, the primary things. And you can find out, you can trace out what is the issue and what is the solution, what is missing. While debugging, you will get some data. I can say, like, some data you will get, or something you will get, so that you will know what is the cause of the issue. Accordingly you can fix. Okay, so let this apart. Let's discuss our today's agenda, that is, what is a Spring framework. I have already told Spring is a lightweight open source application, and by using the Spring framework, what we are going to achieve, we can develop our standalone application as as well as web applications. Okay, so there in Spring framework there are two kinds of, how many types of container are there in Spring framework? I can say there are two kinds of container are there. One is BeanFactory container, another one is application context container. Both the container we are going to use as part of our uh, Spring framework course. Okay, so I will be explaining these two containers in detail. Okay, let's see. And before going to that, let me explain what is a Spring IOC. IOC. That means Spring IOC means inversion of control, and how it works internally. So inversion of control means in Spring framework, the spring itself, the IOC container creates the bean object, and and manage the dependency, and assemble them together, and perform the dependency injection, means through the perform the dependency injection between the objects. um, uh, um, uh, Overall, I can say Spring IOC maintains the life cycle of the beans. Okay, so what is a spring bean and all we are going to discuss in detail. Okay, so let me quickly tell about the spring regarding the two container which we have, bean factory and application context container in detail, and let me show the hierarchy of this. So we understood what is spring and how many types of spring framework like spring containers are there, and what is the need of spring IOC container. Spring IOC container is nothing but like it manages the creation of the objects and configures and assembles their dependencies. Like Spring IOC container will find out all the dependencies and the configuration. Like since IOC container is going to manage the object lifecycle, so somewhere the developer needs to specify the configuration so that IOC container will find that and manage the life cycle of the object accordingly by based on the configuration. So that configuration we need to specify somewhere. So there are multiple ways we can do the configuration of the spring framework. Configuration, we can do the configuration so that IOC container will pick that and manage the life cycle of the bean object. Okay, so there are many ways. I can say there are one of them is XML file, and through Java code also we can do, through annotation also we can do, and Pojo classes that is there. We can do all these configuration by all these various methods. Okay, so first we'll understand the XML file, and then we'll go to the Java code and annotations one by one. Okay, so by using annotation also we can manage the spring dependency. And spring dependency means the object like spring bean life cycle. Okay, okay. So here IOC container manages the life cycle, not the developers. So hence it is called as inversion of control. So you understood why we are calling it is a inversion of control, why the name is IOC. You understood? Like here IOC container will do everything. That means will manage the life cycle of the bean, not the developer. So that is why it is called inversion of control. Okay, so now let's discuss about the two container which we are using in our spring framework as part of spring framework. Okay, these two containers are nothing but interfaces. Both are interfaces. One is BeanFactory interface and another one is application context interface. That is there in org.spring framework package. BeanFactory is there in org.spring dot beans dot factory dot BeanFactory, and another application context interface is there in org.spring framework.context.application context. This is the package where these two containers are available. I mean the two interfaces are available. Let me quickly show the I have kept the diagram for the hierarchy of the these two interfaces. So I will explain what is there. So BeanFactory is there. BeanFactory interface is there, uh, which is having XML BeanFactory as the implementation class. XML BeanFactory class is the implementation class of the BeanFactory, and application context, we have application context interface. That is another type of container that extends from the BeanFactory interface. And application context interface is having three implementation: class path XML application context, file system XML application context, and annotation config web application context. These are the three kinds of implementation of application context interface. Okay, I will explain what is when we are going to use BeanFactory interface and when we are going to use application context interface. That means to whenever when we are going to use BeanFactory container and when we are going to use application context container. Okay, so let me tell you, whenever we are going to implement some basic I can say basic implementation like kind of standalone application, then at that time it is more preferable to go for BeanFactory container, so that we can easily develop our standalone kind of application. Whenever the application is web application like by using application context also we can use standalone application. By using application context also we can develop web application as well. But it is recommended whenever we are going to develop kind of web application, then at that time we should use application context container only. Okay. So I am so you understood what is the implementation of the BeanFactory, and you what is the implementation classes that is there in as part of application context interface. You understood these two container, that means two interface you understood. Then let me explain the how to instantiate. Whenever we are going to use these two interfaces, I mean two container in our application development, then we need the object of the BeanFactory. We need the object of the BeanFactory and we need the object of application context. How we can get that? So we need to hold the BeanFactory object and we will provide the implementation of XML BeanFactory in case of BeanFactory, and we will pick one implementation whenever we are working with application context interface. Okay, so let me show how we can instantiate like BeanFactory. So what we have to do whenever we are whenever we are working with BeanFactory, then at that time what we can do, we can create the BeanFactory object by using the implementation class, that is XML BeanFactory, by passing the resource. Resource is nothing but the class path resource. The class path resource means where our application context.xml file is there. Application context.xml, what is that? I have already told before, application context.xml is the file where we are going to provide all the bean details. That means how the IOC container will create and manage the life cycle of the beans based on the application context.xml file. Whatever the information we will provide based on the information, IOC container is going to manage the life cycle of the bean based on the application context.xml. That is why application context.xml is very much important, and we need to give special care whenever we are working with the Spring application. Okay, so this is the way we need to create the bean factory. Okay, I mean we need to create the instance of XML BeanFactory. So, and next I have given the example how we can instantiate the XML class path XML application context. That is one of the implementation of the application context. So, what we have to give application context. Context is equal to new. We can create the instantiate one class by new operator. You know, this is Spring framework. I no need to tell you the core Java things. If you are interested for core Java, then put me in the comment section. I am going to teach core Java in the separate video. This is since this is a Spring related course, so we will focus on the concept rather than core Java. Okay, so now I am going to give you the difference between the BeanFactory and application context container. So, Bean Factory is the fundamental container that provides the basic functionality of managing beans. So, Bean Factory is the fundamental container. Uh, okay. So, but application context container is the advanced container that extends application context. Application context that extends from Bean Factory interface. That means by using application context, whatever the work we can do by using Bean Factory, same we can do as using the application context container, as well as the some additional benefits also we are going to achieve, right? So I have already discussed about that. And Bean Factory container that is suitable for standalone application. I have already discussed this point. And application context, we are going to develop web applications. That is also I have already discussed. By using the application context, we can also develop standalone application as well as web application. But it is recommended whenever there is a requirement for web application, better to use application context container. Okay, so there is a scope of bin the singleton prototype that as part of this video, like I have not discussed what is the this one what is the scope, how many types of scopes are there, I have not discussed. Going forward I will explain each and every one. Okay, so let me tell about something, some more difference. So, while working with the main important point, I forgot to discuss. Let me tell you now. So, whenever we are working with, whenever we are working with Bean Factory, like whenever we are working with Bean Factory container, then there is a get bean method, so that we can get the bean object. The So it is creating the object, it is the lazy initialization of the, since we are calling the get bin, so it is calling the, like whenever we are calling the get bin, it will create the object of the bin. So it is initialization. So we are calling, then only it will creating, then that is why it is called lazy initialization. But in case of application context, whenever the application context loads all the beans and creates object at the time of startup only. Whenever we start our application, then at that time application context container loads all the beans and creates the object of all the beans. That is why application context is known as, we can say, that is making the initialization. Eager initialization means creating the object at the time of application startup in case of application context container. But in case of Bean Factory, the object is going to create at the time of whenever we are going to call the get bean method, then only it will create the object. So this is the major, main important point which I am trying to address here. So that's it for this video. And if you have any kind of issue, like which part you have not understood as part of this theoretical session, in the upcoming video, next video, I'm going to discuss more things, and I will explain these examples, like how to work with Bean Factory container and application context container with examples. And there are many interesting things are also there, like um, dependency injection, that I have not covered as part of this video. I'm going to deep dive into this dependency injection with a solid example, and I will write all the examples in front of you, and I'll run the code and I'll explain. So that's it. If you have any comment, anything you need to uh, you need to understand, let me know in the comment section, so that I will address in the upcoming video. Okay, thank you guys. Let's meet at the next video. Thank you.